Guys, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of The Breakdown with Bomb. If you follow me on TikTok, you know that this past week I dropped a bombshell on a corporation, a big box gym that I used to work at. And right off rip, I already knew, I was like, I'm gonna sound like a hater, and I really don't care because this is stuff that needs, like at this point, it isn't even about me just like leaving and being a disgruntled employee or someone that just didn't like the company. The things that I shared this past week were things that just really, like, as a business owner and just as a human being, I thought were shady as fuck. And anyone that would know about them and that would spend their money there would want to know, especially in this day and age where we're using more discretion and where we're being more selective about the kind of people where we spend our money, especially here in the US, knowing that our money goes to just about, like, I forget when I'm on TikTok live, like things that I shouldn't say, but yeah, our money goes to fund all kinds of things that we don't all personally approve of. So yeah. But I wanted to start this series and focus more on the cult-like mentality that I experienced there as an employee. Instead of just ranting off all the horrible things about the place, you can see what perspective or why I said it felt like a cult. So a little background. I came from a mega church. My degree, like I dropped out of nursing school to go into ministry because I felt called at the time to be a pastor, to be a minister. And I had grown up in this mega church. Like, it went from a decent size, like big church to like we were saving money for was it 20 years? We started saving money in the 90s and we broke ground in 2012. I don't remember. Anywho, it was definitely like at least 10 years. We were raising money for this church and then we became a mega church. And so anywho, I was involved here heavily. Whether I was a student or whether I was volunteering as an intern or a youth leader. And then eventually I got my credentials and was looking to be paid, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, I was in this clique, this social machine, right? Because that's what churches became. They became like social cliques. And the stuff that I noticed about what made the church and the environment and the ministry successful were things that when I eventually left the church, it were things that I started to notice in businesses. And I was like, I was someone that used to always defend the church and be like, no, it's not a business. And yeah, we collect money because how do you think we're going to pay the lights? And how do you think? Yeah. So like, I truly did not see the church as a business. And maybe smaller churches are not like this, but mega churches for sure. And if you haven't watched The Righteous Gemstones, please do. It's on Max. That shit is funny as hell, and it will trigger you if you went to a mega church. But anywho, again, that's neither here nor there. The things that I noticed help make the ministry successful were things that, like, for example, when I went to go see Tony Robbins, and what the hell was that? Unleash the Power Within, right? When I was at the height of my online coach, entrepreneur, like raw, go, motivation this, like, never sleep, like that crazy, like just red pilled. Oh my God, I was almost there. But anywho, I went to go see Tony Robbins and I did the whole walking on fire thing and everything. And I stood back during one of the nights of the conference and I just kind of observed the room. And I looked at what was happening. And it felt like I was back in church. It felt like a youth center service, like one of the youth ministry service. Yeah, not services. Hold on, I really hope my mic is on. I'll be so sad. Okay, it is on. But they were playing, this is gonna sound so silly. They were playing the Titanic song. And the Titanic song, like, it's a super emotional song. And whether you've seen the movie or not, if you know how music is, music does something to you. And so they're playing the Titanic song, but he had also right before this like primed our brains and asked us to start thinking of something, like envisioning something or reaching out and touching something. And I think he was saying, like, as a gesture, have your hands in the air. And that's a whole nother thing, like movements with your body and how it focuses your mind. This is all legit mental stuff, you know, whatever, shit works. So it has these people doing this and I step back and I'm like, this looks like church. And then when the music drops, like when the beat drops, that's when he like cued them to like do, it was like a visualization process. And we all know the power of visualization. If you don't, power of visualization is extremely strong. So he has them do this, and I wasn't participating in it because I think I went to the bathroom. So when I came back, I had missed the magic. But either way, I probably still would have been, because I was in the back, I would have been looking at it through the eyes of, this looks like me standing in the back of the youth service and watching the pastor like lead them in prayer, lead them in worship. And then when the beat drops, these kids, these people in church are trained to, that's the spirit hitting, that's the spirit falling. That's when people start, you know, going all out and speaking in tongues and acting a fool and this and that. So, and that didn't really happen there, but you know, it was, I just watched the formula. And I was like, shit, okay. So it's more like a psychological thing. It's more like a getting people in a heightened state of mind, right? Like getting their brain to focus on this while getting their brains to focus on something with that heightened state of emotional like intensity. And it makes stuff, I was like, oh my goodness, this is true. This is how people learn too. So I was like, okay. So that was the way I saw it in business. And then the next part, right, would be the communication or almost love bombing. Right? And if anybody's gone to a new church or if anybody's gone to a crunch, you know that they love bomb the fuck out of you. Like when you go to, like you're in a group chat, hold on, let me give you two separate instances. So let's say you're a leader or you're like in a small groups or something, you got group chats and you keep it hype and it's all raw and everybody's all hype. And then I've seen this when I've been on sales teams, not just at Crunch, but at different sales teams where like everybody drop your sales, everybody say what you made for the day, and they keep the energy high. Like that's intentional. So I would see that when I was in sales, I would see that in online coaching. Then I saw it also at Crunch very much, except it was like amplified almost to the point where like, they like make sure that you like everybody's stuff, da-da-da. So this is like this is important because this is laying the groundwork for the shit that they do and why they want to love bomb you and why it's so like clicky. Or I don't know why I'm repeating words today. Pause, where's my water? So that is what made me, so that would be like what made me not start looking at Crunch, but like this idea after I couldn't stop like seeing the similarities, the ADHD, the pattern recognition. I was like, this place operates eerily, similarly to the way it felt when I was in church. And then it also is just so corporate and capitalistic. It's driving me insane. And I was like, corporate America, the church, and Crunch. I was like, this all goes together somehow. And it's like, they're all like cults. Like you have to buy into this nonsense in order for it to work. And in order to get people to buy into this nonsense, you have to get them in this heightened state of awareness and not of emotional state. And you got to keep them there. You have to keep them there. And that's what the love bombing is. And that's why everybody always has to stay hype and pumped. And the music always has to stay hype so that everyone can stay fucking happy and pretend that they're happy all the time. And it's insane. But let's get back more to the stories of Crunch. And I'm trying to shorten these up. We're about 9.5 minutes in. So this first installment, if you will, is Crunch or Cult, will just be like the hiring process. So in order, I don't know what it's like in other states, but here in Florida and Ron DeSantis state, no matter where you live at in this big ass state, and pause for a second, if you're not from Florida, people say stuff like, I'm in wherever they're at. I'm staying at Disney. I'll come see you. And I'm like, I live here. And they're like, yeah, that's right outside Orlando. I'm like, it's like 45 minutes to an hour. Like we are not close. Like what Miami is 4 hours away. There are some of y'all from what I hear in the Northeast that can drive like the whole, tri-state area or whatever in 4 hours. It's going to take me that long to get to Miami. It's going to take me 8 hours to get out of Florida if I'm at the bottom of the state. Florida is a big ass fucking state. So I just wanted to clarify and specify that real quick. No matter where you live in the state of Florida, if you want to work at a Crunch, as I was told, you have to drive down to their corporate location in Tampa and do, I should have looked this up before I started, but it's either a 3-day or a 5-day. I think it's just 3, but it was either a 3-day or a 5-day mandatory like onboarding thing. And I was like, y'all don't have this online? They're like, no, you got to drive down there. And I was like, what if I was in Pensacola? What if I was, what are you guys talking about? That's insane. I have a Jeep. Like, and they're like, all right, well, and they're like, well, we reimburse you. Yeah, we reimburse you And I'm like, okay, cool. So you were reimbursed for the gas? They're like, oh, we pay, you know, your hourly rate for being there. And I was like, what are you fucking, like, of course you will, because that's my time. But what about me driving back and forth? They're like, you can get a hotel. I'm like, oh, you can just go get a hotel. What the fuck do you mean I can just go get a hotel? When people are looking for jobs, usually they get things like sign-on bonuses, not told that you gotta, like, when I made a lot of mistakes as a young lady, I learned a lot. Like, I did Cutco knives. That was one of those MLMs. I did Beachbody for about a month. None of them lasted very long, don't worry. I did missions trips at church. So I did. But no, there were a lot of things that I learned, and I can just, I can tell scams, and when you have to buy into something to make money. I'm not trying to say that everything that requires you to pay is a scam, because as a business owner and an entrepreneur, I understand that you have to invest in your business. Like, I have to pay for ads if I want clients. That's not a scam. That's just how it works. If I want my shit to be shown to people. But in cases of you got hired with us, unless it's something like you need to go buy a pair of shoes, like as a waitress, I know when I'm starting somewhere, I'm going to need to buy a pair of slip resistant shoes. So most of us already usually have that on deck. And again, that's $30. It's $30, slip resistant shoes, probably even cheaper. And most jobs, you can order them in a catalog for even cheaper, right? So like, you know, or the uniforms provided. These motherfuckers were like, you have to drive all the way down here before you get hired, even though, yes, it will pay you. Obviously, you gotta wait 2 weeks. I'm like, can you imagine? I can't imagine, because I didn't fucking do it. They were like, you can drive out there, or you can get a hotel. I'm like, so either way, you guys want me to pay for a hotel, or you want me to drive my Jeep back and forth. Not to mention, I got to pay to eat out there 3 days a week. When I got that job, like, that's not, no, like, no. And I know this may seem little to some people, like, damn girl, why are you cheap? No, because that's not, you don't do that shit to people. Especially with trainers, like, it can be a grind, it can be a hustle, especially as a new trainer, especially as just acquiring clients on your own is hard, which is probably why gyms pay their trainers so little, because they know they're taking a lot of the work out for us that we would have to do on our own. Like I just mentioned, paying for ads, exposure, etc. But to do that to your new employees, it's almost like a test of how much are you willing to buy in. And I knew from the jump, I was like, that doesn't, no, I'm not fucking doing that. I don't even know how I finagled it. I think I let them know. I was like, I own my own business. My schedule doesn't, I'm like, that's just not gonna work. We kept pushing it off until next thing I know, it wasn't an issue anymore. But that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up with part 1 of his crunch occult, because little things like that, like I mentioned, it's a way of testing the waters to see how much you'll commit to this job. How much do you want to wear this crunch badge? How much you want to yada. And I got that same vibe again when you're in churches, when you're in corporations. Like, how much are you willing to sacrifice to like prove that you want to move up in this company? Or how much are you willing to serve and give us your free time and your hard-earned volunteer hours and yada. So sit with that. And then also, I would love to hear any of your input, especially if you worked at Crunch, or especially if you can relate to similar high intensity, high manufactured hype environments, especially in these smaller, not smaller, but like in these online communities. I'm shivering because the air just came on. It's actually been on for a minute and I've been pretending it's not on, but I'm gonna put it on and I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much, guys, for showing up to today's episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you got value from today, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll be back Monday at 5:30 p.m. with a new live episode the very next day. And we're gonna keep this going for as long as we can, probably like maybe 2 months, and we'll drop down to once a week because you know me. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.